appreciate all the support that you've ever given us, and go Cog Prime.
And I want to make sure you get your trophy here as well, man. MVP, Cyno, and his heavy, man. Make sure you hold on to it for me. MVP, raise it up for him, man.
It's just so incredible. I'm so happy. And, I've always wanted to tell my parents that I finally won this tournament. So Mom, Dad, I finally won Worlds.
Feels like I'm in a dream. I haven't woken up yet. Hopefully this dream never stops.
Splice are going to be your Season 5 World Champions. This is their moment. Untouched, unscathed, bow down to your kings, the Camelot Kings, champions of the world.
Happy Friday, SMITE fans, and welcome back to the 5th week of the SMITE Pro League and the Path to Masters. Only 3 more days of the regular season of play for these teams to determine who's going to be the ones to auto-qualify to Masters, who are going to be the ones who have to make a run through the playoffs to get to that position. It all comes down to this week. It's some very, very heavy standing implications for one division in particular. We'll get to see a little bit of that just here in a moment, because today is going to be action-packed. This entire weekend are sets that you are not going to want to miss out on, specifically, again, with those ones in that order side division. I'm Jay Mack. I got Mifflin joining me here on the desk as we get ready to jump into at least our first portion of today. And Miff, we get to start out with a pretty insane set to kick things off. Styx Ferrymen, Highland Ravens, 2 teams that have been on the rise so far, in particular with Styx Ferrymen. Excited to see what these 2 teams have to bring in our new patch.
Yeah, I think maybe similar in overall trajectory, but in how they've approached it, very different. Whereas the Ferrymen start off very slow here, have essentially brought themselves up. I would argue it was an explosive start for the Ravens that has since petered out, now evened out to a pretty standardly good rate.
We can take a look at the schedule for our weekend so you can see exactly what matches you want to be tuning in on. Make sure you stick around for the full ones today. We got Styx Ferrymen and Highland Ravens on the order side. And then over in the Chaos division, we got Oni Warriors and Gilded Gladiators facing off. And then Saturday, tomorrow, we'll kick things back with the Oni Warriors once more against the Jade Dragons. And that will round out the Warriors season. Every single one of these matchups this weekend are all inside a division. There's no more cross-division matchups. It's purely playing against the opponents inside of your own respective division. And every single one of the teams in the order division have an opportunity to potentially take that first seed as we jump on over. First seed, at least over for the Chaos division, those guys are guaranteed. The Oni Warriors, a team that had some doubts coming into this season with this stack, but have proven that maybe you can just mechanics diff an entire league, and have done so for themselves so far. Over on the opposite side, order division, it's been a tight battle with all of these guys through. Been some growing pains in the Chaos division more than anything else, and I think that's reflected a lot so in the standings as well, as we can take a full look at how things have broken down after 4 full weeks of play. Oni Warriors undefeated, 8-0. If Oni Warriors win out their next 2 sets, the one today and tomorrow morning, they will take the record for most set wins in a row in SPL history. A win today ties it. A win tomorrow guarantees to take that one. It's a battle for second place over on the Chaos division. But as I said, order is where you want to keep your eyes out. 2 teams at 5-3, Camelot Kings, Highland Ravens. 2 teams at 4-4, Hounds and Styx Ferrymen, all with the opportunity to jump up potentially to that first seed, depending on how their matchups go this weekend. And I think every single one of those are ones you're going to keep your eyes out for.
It is rare in the SPL history where the last week of play in any phase has still had impactful matches on seeding. With first seed up for grab in the order division, I mean, this whole week, you got to keep your eyes on everything. There's so many things that can shift around, so many things that need to play out perfectly for some of these teams, and others would love to secure their top spot. I think just a very interesting spot to find ourselves.
Yeah. Starting out our day with Styx Ferrymen and Ravens, we'll talk about at least the Styx Ferrymen a little bit, because this is a team that had a very slow start, Mifflin. This is not a team that, jumped out immediately, guns blazing, and winning all their matchups, and maybe it would surprise you with some of the talent on this team. Cyclone, Aror, Paul, a team that's been sticking together through the old days of the Tartarus Titans and seasons of past, has worked so well. Cyno, who joined that roster partway through last year with the Tartarus Titans to join Aror and Paul. That core 3 has had some time. And then you throw Baskin on there, who is one of the best players that SMITE has had in some time as well. But it just felt like there was something missing from this team. It felt like there was just a little bit of disconnect from this squad.
Yeah, and I'm not going to put it all on one guy as the reason things have started to get a lot better. The entirety of the Ferryman team have started to play a little bit better as the phase continued. I would argue Paul, the only consistent throughout every single week. We're still getting Paul, but even then, feels like he can break out one next level. But when I look at Brooks Matty and I look at Cyno, that's Cyno, and his god selections, they happen to coincide when he moved off Warriors with the wins for the Styx Ferrymen. He still hasn't gone towards the massive standard selections, right? It's not the Thors or the Susanos, but he started added Kleena to the repertoire, get some Fenrir's in there, a Hunbots game, which I would argue is probably Cyno's best performance in his most recent matchup against the Camelot Kings. Gets on these standard assassins, and all of a sudden these wins start rolling. Whether or not that's the entirety of the reason, I'll leave that up to the fans at home and the Ferrymen themselves to identify if that's what they think it came from. But me on the analyst desk, me as Mifflin, speaking to you directly at home as the fans, I'm pretty sure it's Cyno playing assassins, and it's looked much better for this team.
Yeah, I mean, first 3 weeks of play, he had 3 different gods played, and 2 of them were the wars. He had Nike, Surtur. Can you guess the third one?
Oh, man.
It's Cyno.
It's Cyno, Naja.
Naja. That was his 3. After then has added, as you mentioned, the cleanup. Fenrir, Hunbats, and Robin, the latter of those 3, have all gotten wins for this team so far. So now with him kind of amplifying up that god pool a little bit more, bringing it more towards the standard, you know, not the Cyno specials that we came so accustomed to his SCC, towards his tail end of Season 9 when he jumped back into the SPL, not running the Thanatoses and things like that. We're starting to see some more consistency across the board, and it really has built up for the entirety of the team.
And you know, it's not just Cyno who's moved away from what had become the very early phase Year 10 standards. It's also Aror, who's playing a lot of the mage supports, a good deal of the hell, has since moved over towards the Ganesha, the Horus, the Terra, the standard Guardians, the in-your-face, I'm going to be annoying Aror-style picks. And the Ferrymen, it was almost at the exact same time. Aror and Cyno both buckle in, decide, all right, we're going to play what we're good at, we're going to play the Assassins, we're going to play the Guardians. All of a sudden, the Ferrymen start looking a lot better. And I think that does feed into the conversation that I'll see pretty often in pro-discourse discords or on the Reddit. Is composition everything? I'd argue no. You can win with just about any composition with play on field. The only Warrior is a great example of that. But drafts are meant to make the game as easy as possible for yourselves. And I'd argue the Ferrymen didn't do themselves any favors for the first couple weeks, have been doing that in the last couple, and have looked much better for it.
Now maybe on the opposite end of that, a team that is still doing maybe some wilder picks for a couple of their players, but it's still working well just because this team has been able to holistically just really work well as a squad jumping in. Had a great start for themselves. The Highland Ravens started their season out 3-1, have since gone 4-3, so a 2-2 in the last 2 weeks compared to their 3-1 rush out the gate. And I got to give major props to Hurriwind. He comes in, starts his support train right at the very beginning of Season 9, jumps into the SCC, didn't quite make the qualifications into SPL, jumps in at the very end of SPL on a bottom 2 team, really had to work with what he was given at that time, did work really well, but just wasn't quite enough. Now, joining over with this squad, this feels like a perfect mesh for Hurriwind, and the squad that he has built around him as well, that old core of the Bolts really winding themselves together.
Yeah, I think you're right that Hurriwind deserves a bit more credit than he's been given. It's easy to forget that Hurry is essentially on his freshman support year, right? First dedicated year in a new role, and has looked very good on it. I would argue at times upwards of top 4 supports in the league, but has really found himself at a comfortable standard. But he gets overshadowed a bit because of the emergent performance of BaRRaCCuDDa and Ven. Those two, the core backliners of the Ravens team, have really stepped up. The Olympus Bolts year is a bit slow for them, but have since then on the Ravens just looked very, very good. Consistent backline presence, great damage output, a diverse god pool from both of them. Gone are the days of 3 weeks of play and you only get to see Jingwei from BaRRaCCuDDa. Ven has also diversified his god pool, playing Zeus or Apuash or just about anything that his team has called for. Morgan Le Fay, Hebo, even the Hell has taken out of the support's hands. So the Ravens have always been a hard team to lock down. At every single interview we've given them this year, what's your play style? What type of team is this? Generally, it's Haddix who says, yeah, man, I don't know. We're playing Smite, and when it works, it works, and when it doesn't, it doesn't. It's worked more often than not for the Ravens, and I expect them to have a great year if they're able to keep up with this trajectory.
You want to talk about a wide god pool. Let's mention Scream here for a second. 20 games so far that the Highland Ravens have played, 16 unique god selections during that time. Not all of them have been hits. There have been a couple of misses throughout there, but between him, Venenu has had 10 different God picks in the mid lane as well over those 20, so really trying to amplify up those numbers and make it difficult to really ban these guys out. So picks and bans should be very interesting for these squads as well. And also got to mention again, we are on the 10.5, so new changes have come through. Tier, I've got to imagine, is probably going to be amongst the top bans. Potentially, we'll have to see how many teams let him through there. I don't imagine many going through there. I got hit by my first tier stun ult the other day, and it kind of just gave me whiplash. I'm like, bro, this does not feel right. And I imagine a lot of pros are probably going to be in that same mindset.
I've always said Tier's like one major buff away from coming back into the meta. Feels like one more bit of CC was all he needed. Now he's burning your beads and then pushing you as opposed to pushing you to get your beads. Makes him much more strong.
Yeah, Tier is going to be up there. We talked a little bit with the Hunters about Hachiman as well. We'll see if any of those gods do make it through for the picks and bans for game number 1 themselves and really kind of reel these things in. I think the Hachiman is one that I got to talk to the Hunters a bit. I asked him, so all the changes to Hachiman. Now he gets extra attack speed in that passive and things like that, so it's going to be great. But we did have a moment to sit down with Hurriwind and talk with him, so we'll go ahead and throw it over to that video.
We feel pretty good. I think we were in a small rut. I wouldn't say we were in a terrible place, but we lost our form a little bit. We were struggling with some team identity. I think picks and bans were a bit tough for us, but ultimately we won both our sets. It wasn't the cleanest, but overall we're pretty happy with how things turned out for sure. It's a little bit difficult to work with so many characters that are so oppressive right now with the healers being so strong, with a few off-roll picks being really strong. It makes picks and bans really tough to know, like, should we leave everything open? Which ones are more oppressive than others? And you see a lot of teams, for example, like they take Horus and put it solo to try to like get a 2-for-1 and things like that. And everyone kind of has a different approach to it right now. So I think despite everyone playing similar characters, teams are going like vastly different ways in terms of pick banning right now. We are very confident, I would say, against the Styx Ferrymen. I think our team's like style works very well into the way they want to play. The Ferrymen, when we played them at least, were still playing warriors in the jungle. My good friend Cyno. And they've definitely looked a lot better since he's been playing assassins. I know people like to joke about that, but I do think they're on an upturn since he's playing something that has like active kill potential. I also feel like, I wouldn't say they're necessarily predictable, but I think we know their players very well and how they want to play the game. And that obviously puts us in a favorable position from my point of view.
So maybe some bans over towards Cyno could be at least an answer for the Highland Ravens trying to deal with Styx Ferrymen, try and take some of those new assassins that have been rising up for him over in that jungle role and try and maybe force him back onto some of those picks that he thought was great, though. Maybe with Cyno and at least some of the discussions that we've had with him, having some opportunities to maybe now try and add a few more assassins to that pool and slowly kind of work his way back into this meta myth.
I feel like it's so difficult to ban Cyno because of his refusal to play the more standard assassins, right? If he had added Susano to the repertoire, if it were a Thor consistently or these other assassins that literally everyone else is playing, maybe you ban it out. Do you really want to dedicate a ban to Kleena in 2023, the year of our Lord? I don't think so. Not exactly. So I think it's much more likely that we see dedicated bans towards support or perhaps even mid.
Yeah, I think support is definitely maybe a call that we could be seeing some of those picks and bans allocated for these two squads. Because, I mean, whenever we jump into picks and bans here, a lot of what we've been seeing up against these teams has been a lot of Noxes, a lot of Hells. Yemoja has really been jumping up there. Aphrodite kind of here and there with these two teams with the performance that Hurriwind had it in weeks prior. Would not be surprised if we maybe still saw a little bit of respect for an Aphrodite ban there. But I got to imagine Yemoja will not make it back to Hurriwind's hands after the performance that he has had with, I believe, 4 games that he has gotten to play that pick. And every single time it has worked out just well for him and the Highland Ravens. And the Ravens in that first pick have a lot of potential what they can do with this first pick. Now mentioning with a couple of those picks that are kind of jumping themselves back up into priority, seeing that tier kind of find its way up there, seeing maybe where Hachiman lands for some of these hunters. I think it's going to be a very fun first day to kind of see how the shift-ups do change amongst these two teams.
Yeah, I wonder. I am so curious about tier prioritization. Is he as good as we're projecting? I'm not so certain because I'm projecting him to be very good right now. We'll see if these teams agree or whether or not they've had time to really practice it even consistently. There are players in the league that have played a good deal of tier and will likely continue to do so, but it's SOT. We're talking about SOT. It's really just him, and he's not in this set. So we'll see how these teams have changed out the priority order. Yemoja's still available as it stands. Vamana still available as well. So 2 priority picks that the Ravens could take in first slot. Of the 2, maybe I lean a little bit more so towards Vamana. I just feel like that god is so strong right now. The ability to jump into the backline and stay there while simultaneously dealing immense damage. Maybe a bit too much to leave it open.
First wave of bans do go through. Hell, Guan Yu, and Martikros banned for the Ravens. Ferrymen will take away Aphrodite, Circuit, and Nox. Leaves open a first pick Vamana. So even with some of the nerfs that did come his way, still some prioritization for the Highland Ravens to make sure to grab this selection. And same with Horus, even eating, I believe, a 3-second nerf to his healing dash. That Protector Surge getting a little bit more cooldown. Thrown away from it, I should say, from 10 to 13. Still showing some favoritism, at least in that role, some flexibility with that squad, and then a Ram to round out the first two for the Styx Ferrymen. Feels like not much has changed so far, Miv. Haven't seen any change-ups towards really much of anything just yet.
Yeah, I think adaptation is likely in this next few phases of picks. Wouldn't be surprised for BaRRaCCuDDa to take the Hachiman in this position. Hachi's buffs make him very viable, I think, and BaRRaCCuDDa wanted to go towards him even before some of those buffs had come through. Otherwise, Jingwei is still available as well. The Xbalanque is still available. Feels crazy that I have to bring that up in 2023, but BaRRaCCuDDa's been playing that a fair deal as well. Could be that the Highland Ravens just hold off on their ADC selection and instead wait until after second phase. Instead, could look towards some priority mid selections. Feels like the Hebo has been serving the Ravens very, very well. Would bring some flex potential to their team. Could go jungle, could go mid. Instead, it will be the Hachiman. And how did I forget about the Yemoja? I mean, there's a reason that Hurriwind has not been allowed to play this god very often, and it's not because he's not good at it. In fact, it's the opposite. The Yemoja has been very potent for the Highland Ravens. And already, I love the team fight presence of this Ravens draft. Vamana as your dedicated space creation, Yemoja as a front-to-back support, can either play peel on the backline or be another initiator for your team. Hachiman, self-sufficient in that backline, and can actually match up with the dive. That's one of the primary strengths, I think, of Hachiman and Chernobog, is their ability to get into the enemy backline. Chernobog a little bit better at it. Will jump into a shadow, but Hachiman can chase you down, throw out that massive damage, and boost your chase down potential with the slow.
Devastating dual lane for the Highland Ravens. So first time this phase we see the Hachiman picked up, and it will be BaRRaCCuDDa piloting this one, then the Yemoja for Hurriwind. I mean, it's been a 100% win rate for him so far this phase, being able to take that one, a 4.2 KD8 to boot as well. It's definitely been a powerful pick for the Highland Ravens, and then that Hebo, as you mentioned, for the Ferrymen. Second wave of bans, we start to see some of that priority thrown towards the tier, as it does eat a ban from the Ravens. Styx Ferrymen will take away Thoth. It feels like trying to ban Venenu might be one of the harder mid laners in the league to ban right now for how diverse his selection of gods have been. As mentioned, 20 games played for the Ravens, and there's been 10 unique god picks throughout those so far. Taking just a couple of maybe what has been his top performers more than anything for the Styx Ferrymen.
Yeah, still has a few of his tried and trues that he can lean back on. The Morgan Le Fay has served him very well, has an okay matchup into the top 3 of the Ferrymen as it is. Could prevent the updraft from Horus by immediately going to the Dragonflight. Hebo generally needs to get point blank to deal his damage, so Dragonflight good there as well. You'll have the range advantage if he wants to go towards Morgan Le Fay. But I don't see enough dive just yet from the Ferrymen to prevent the Ravens from considering a Zeus selection. It has been very difficult to shut down Ven's Zeus. You've got great space creation already on the Ravens. I think having that core of damage for your team could go a long ways here. That's another pick I was expecting to see. It seems to have fallen a bit in priority. The Hercules is the last ban for the Ravens. Could potentially have Vamana go into the jungle still. Could potentially have him go into solo. Had Hercules made his way through, I think the Ravens likely would have been happy to take it for themselves. Good damage output, even more initiation, even more space control would lend itself to some of those immobile mages that Ven have been leaning on. But instead, the Ravens take it away themselves, thinking that Horus probably is slated for support.
We'll have to see where the Horus does go with some of the bans that have gone through. Aror has been one to go towards the Ganesha frequently. Terra has been a second selection of his and will be the next go-to. So giving the Horus over to Baskin in the solo lane instead now for the Styx Ferrymen.
Might be Merlin now for Ven.
You think maybe Merlin to go up against this Terra. Is that Terra just enough dive to maybe kind of dissuade Ven from going on that Zeus style of pick?
It's a little bit more dive, of course. It's consistent dive as well with CC lockdown to allow the rest of your team to catch up. Zeus, I think, will struggle to create space with his Terra or to survive that initiation. And then the Earthen Fury and the damage mitigation that affords you makes it a little bit more difficult for Chain Lightning or Detonate to secure some of these kills. You still could go towards Zeus, but considering Ven has been very likely to lock in the Merlin for himself, it's a great god at keeping space, which seems to be the trend of this Ravens draft. Instead, though, with Bakasura locked in, that puts your Vamana in the solo lane. Bakasura as a Spearhead Initiator, even more space creation now. And a no-play zone with that Regurgitate. I think you do likely need the Zeus. That is just massive damage output. I'm concerned, though, because the Ferrymen with their last pick, a solo laner, could really make it difficult to beat Zeus. We've seen answers like Kamazot's in the past of, well, I want to deal damage, but I don't want to be in your damage. Could have been an option, and one that Cyno's gone towards a fair deal in the SCC instead. Batz. Batz has been my favorite pick for Cyno this year. I've only seen it the once. It looked very good. It is even more dive potential, but has to be a bit careful here. There's very fast turnaround potential from the Ravens.
Now, I mentioned number 20 to you earlier. It's not only number of games that the Ravens have, that's also Ven's KDA on Zeus.
KDA on Zeus is 20.
20. Only 2 games played, so he hasn't had a ton of games too, but has a 20 KDA on this god so far in the 2 games that he's gotten to play it. So, impressive stuff. We'll see if he can keep those same numbers up, maybe keep it on the uptrend.
20?
20.
That's KDA.
Yeah, that's KDA.
Oh, KDA, okay.
Yeah, KDA. Not KD, KDA. So including the assist in there. But even still.
No, that's crazy.
That high of a double, like if it was like 10, like those kind of double digits, that's like, okay, yeah.
No,
you
10's still pretty
10
crazy.
is still good on, but 20 might be one of the higher KDAs that we have so far this phase. But Styx Ferrymen, as you say, round out their draft with the Bats. Still a lot of dive, but as been mentioned, maybe some big turnaround potential with this Zeus lock-in for the Ravens. So what's the scaling progression of this game kind of look like for the Ravens? You got a Zeus, he's going to do really good late game. You have a Baka, he's pretty good early game to try and go this. Is there enough of that kind of early to late curve for the Ravens to get themselves to that late stage team fight?
They've got great early game on the Ravens. Your duo lane of Hachi and Yemoja, current Hachi plus Yemoja, any iteration, is going to have pretty decent pressure, scales well, sustains well in lane, so you could trust that they should be able to hold their own in the 2v2. Bakasura, of course, one of the fastest farmers in Smite, especially out of the jungle. Finish Golden Blade, get your crit, you're online. It's generally second, maybe third item with that bladed boomerang. Vamana, incredibly safe, can be left alone on an island, which should leave that Bakasura open to either play through mid and facilitate the Zeus, or play through the duo lane and play around the pressure. I don't think we'll see too many rotations over towards solo lane, especially after second item. But the late game presence of the Ravens is very scary. Bakasura as a solo agent and Zeus as the bulk of your damage with a very strong protection composition means that the Ferrymen, their team fight contingent on that Spearhead initiation. If Earthen Fury and Fear No Evil are down and Ven is still alive, Ven is likely going to end that fight alive, and he's going to end it himself with a detonate that kills 3 or 4 people, right? So it has to be concise comms from the Ferrymen, concise target selection, and simple target selection. Did Zeus survive? If yes, you lost the fight. If no, well, the fight's looking pretty good.
Well, let's see if the Styx Ferrymen can bounce themselves back in. A fight for potential first seed on the line for both of these squads. It's all going to start right here in game number 1.
That's right, J-Mac, and thanks Mifflin there on the desk as we jump into game. It's Gore, it's Trelly. And of course, it's going to be Doug here for game 1, Ravens, Ferrymen. And I'm really excited for this one, Trelly, and it's mainly because the last time me and you were casting when Hurriwind got Yemoja, he got a 4-man ultimate. So that's just my expectation at this point. And so I'm waiting for that.
You're waiting for the 4-man ultimate.
Yeah, like it's every
You
game.
want nothing less.
Nothing less.
What about a 5-man ultimate?
Oh my god. I might actually lose my mind.
Wow. And in this case, it looks like we got the predictions leaning more towards the Ravens, which is interesting. Considering, I think the Ravens have been the favorite as well. I believe in Waiting Room, I did lean more towards the Ravens. But I think the Styx Ferrymen, as Mifflin highlighted, because Cyno's been playing the Bats, you know, these assassins, he's been looking a lot stronger. The Styx Ferrymen in general have just been looking extremely strong when Cyno is on these. I'm not going to say just assassins because the Kalina was fine. It was just a little bit different. I think Bats in particular can really start a fight, and that's what the Ferrymen need. They needed more initiation, and that's what Cyno's provided.
And honestly, that's something I think that they can work out pretty well. Having that initiation online, specifically getting to Ven, that's really the target.
Yep.
Whether you're forcing beats or just forcing him to be in an uncomfortable spot. Either way, it is a huge deal. You know, J-Mac was talking about Ven's KDA on this god. I'm assuming that was for this phase, but like, the last game we watched him play Zeus, he had no deaths. Like 7 kills, 8 or more assists. Like, he was untouched and did not care about anything that came towards him, to the point where, if I remember correctly, Jelly late game, he just kind of scoffed at anyone who walked towards him and would kill them outright. You got to get him before he can get to that point. Paul on Hebo is another one. I mean, we've been seeing that pick in the jungle a lot. Paul, a very classic combo for that god. Dual lane getting a little bullied, though. BaRRa getting low. Good walls from Aror. Forces the beads and the dash.
BaRRa was holding that dash for such a long time.
Just needed to get out, and he does.
I mean, he had it for so long. I guess he didn't want to get it caught by the stun or something like that. But in this case, you're right. Paul starts the blink on the Hebo. He wants to be able to close gap. He does not want Ven to hard carry a game away. And this is a great way to try and stop some of that aggression. If you blink in, water spout, crushing wave, you're going to be able to delete a Zeus. But now Scream might have to worry about that same blink going on to him. How much chase down potential do they have? 2 blinks. And it looks like Paul's going to go back to mid lane.
But the blink goes deep there for Scream. Teleport in from Cyno, plus the blink already used. Overhand smash for a little bit of damage. That speed buff is down. Cyno doesn't need it. Jump
slow.
Gets the
That's
slow.
it.
That's going to be a huge one. Just a couple of autos. There it is. First blood on the long chase down for Cyno. And the damage is looking good for Finn. Almost able to pay it back. Oh, but just a little shy. First blood for the Ferryman. It's the only kill.
Yep, Ven really wanted the chain lightning off the Bastion. Paul wasn't going to give it to him, and the shield toss was down. So not able to return that one. Scream just did not have to fight for those mid camps. There's free mid camps on the left side of the map, but I think because you're Baka, you feel like you can walk up and just eat one for free. And in this case, Cyno had plenty of damage, only had to hit the slow one time, and was able to. And he could match the blink as well. As Scream said, "I'll blink outside." I said, "I've got one of those too. I do not mind. I will be able to chase you down." So that's going to be a great start here for the Ferrymen. Especially if Cyno's able to hit level 5 quickly. There's a lot of key targets on the side of the Ravens that don't have beads that might want to see a Fear No Evil in their future, as long as Cyno's able to get that damage online, or at the very least have the follow-up.
I mean, hell, you're looking to bully someone. Scream doesn't got beats, man. Maybe an easy target for him, like you said, though. Could go towards Haddix, although the CC immune ults gets me a little shaky about ganks on Vamana sometimes. Especially considering, and maybe it's SOT bias, but what I've seen in solo lane the last couple of weeks has me very timid about going over there, period.
Right.
Luckily, it doesn't seem like that's going to be the path. Not level 5 yet. Actually slightly behind Scream in terms of hitting the ultimate. And the Baka ult can't be overlooked, Trelly. I think it's something that is also incredibly important for moments like this, just because even though it's not as big as maybe a Fear No Evil, that's going to slow down a lot of the escapes on the Ferryman.
Yep, I think there's a lot of CC immune dashes that are just not available here for the Styx Ferrymen. You know, of course, Paul's not going to have too much of a problem getting away from the Baka, but Aror isn't going to love it. Cyclone isn't going to love it. And of course, Cyno is not going to appreciate the regurgitate goo on the ground. Just takes away a lot of that escape potential as well as engage. But I'm thinking you're right. Haddix should be just fine as long as he's able to hold on to Colossal Fury and pay attention to where Cyno is at any given moment. But that's sort of the benefit of this Horus solo. You can lead with a stun, immediately into a knockup, and before this Vamana hits the ground, you're in Fear No Evil. You have no chance to go into that Colossal Fury. You have no chance to use that CC immunity. I think that's why Cyno was hanging around solo lane for a bit, but Baskin's just going to get a little bit more pressure until that Golden Blade is finished up. And Haddix is respecting that by staying as far away as possible, constantly just running away and staying underneath his own tower. And this horse is a threat, especially with that axe proc early on. You get so much poke. Level 2, we've seen a few solo kills over in that lane just by nature of, oh, I've got this much lockdown and you're tanking archers? Okay, I'm going in.
Horus, nothing to laugh at. And Vamana as well. You know, I was actually really interested in seeing a couple of gods. Tier got banned out after the bonus patch. You know, Vamana's maybe been on my mind a little bit with some of the tweaks, I guess, that kind of were thrown his way. Hachi as well. BaRRa loves this pick. Was picking him even when he wasn't that great in certain meta matchups. And now, should be on that list of gods that maybe we can start to expect in the duo lane. Ram, you know, not surprised to see him go maybe higher priority. All in all, Shelly, 5.5 minutes in, 200 gold. separating the two teams, nothing too crazy. The Ferrymen with that slight lead need something to go their way in order to pull that back, because first blood bounty going your way, it's not massive, but to lose essentially all of that shows just how well the Ravens are playing the map, playing the neutral objectives right now, splitting their farm efficiently. Maybe it's mid lane where things can change. I see 3 Ferrymen that are just hanging around in there, but nothing big on the board for them yet. We wanted to see that Fear No Evil. We haven't really gotten to see too much out of it.
Yeah, in my mind, the first blood was just a nice little gift here for the Ferrymen, because the Highland Ravens were always going to pull ahead early. I think Scream just naturally farms the map very fast. Zeus, if he's uncontested, has incredible wave clear early on as well. Paul just can't really match that, especially with Blink. You can tell he has not been up past halfway point in that lane unless he's got someone else with him. It's just if Ven can ever place his Lightning Storm at the end of Crushing Wave to say, oh, you're going to ult right into the middle of it, he's dead. There's just no way that the Sibo can make it out. So Paul is trying to stay as far back as possible, as long as he doesn't have vision on where Scream's at, or of course, if he's not in range to get damaged down by Ven. Later on, the roles are going to flip a bit, where Paul's got that delete key and can just go in whenever he wants. It's all about where these junglers are, and of course, Scream just farms the map quicker. So that's the reason, and it looks like Baskin couldn't even get up into the air. Too much damage, and Scream's returning to kill.
Yeah, not just farming the map, farming some kills, right? That's a good one to pick up for the jungler. Scream able to answer back Cyno's first blood, and as we saw earlier, the experience-wise, he was already a little bit ahead, so that's actually going to be a massive kill for him, Trelly. It's a teleport out of Baskin. If you're maybe looking for a Gold Fury play in the next couple of minutes, that's a huge relic to be down. It'd be kind of early for the Ravens to maybe try and pull for one. But a big advantage nonetheless with Zeus, Burn. There's a lot more, I think, that can be on the table in that conversation than maybe would be otherwise.
Yep. I mean, it would be early. But considering the meta shakeups, I mean, we saw a 14-minute Fire Giant last week, so I'm thinking if the Highland Ravens
do Warriors games count?
I mean, they have to count a little bit. You're right. Not everyone can play at that pace, but I'm just saying the Gold Fury could be a possibility.
Yeah.
With the buffs to Hachiman, his extra attack speed now and his passive, he has been an absolute threat, and CycloneSpin has been feeling it. BaRRaCCuDDa has essentially set up camp right here. He has been starving waves and standing at tower line, trying to get aggressive, trying to 1v1 Cyclone, and he's not having it. And it seems like the pressure's on the left side of the map because of that, because Scream gets a gank over on right lane. Cyno shows up. Is he really trying to fight this? Maybe not.
Yeah, it's not a good one. Fear No Evil. Oh, it finds just the right amount of peel. Forces Scream ult for ult. One of those has a little bit of a shorter cooldown, though, Trelly. You can see Scream's power spikes. I mean, you lose a little bit because of the cooldown, right? Jotun's Wrath for Cyno maybe makes that a little bit nicer, but the damage output from Scream right now, if you're forcing Cyno to go ult for ult every single time, I feel like that's a positive trade for the Bakasura.
Definitely is. CycloneSpin stepping up here. I was wondering how deep he'd be willing to go for the invade, because Ven was nearby. He was near the chest camp, decided not to go for it, and because of that, Cyclone will be just fine. But you're right. I think the ult for ult trade, Scream is happy to take at the moment. But late game, you want to get a little bit more value out of that regurgitate. And here comes Aror. Man, I was going to say, Cyclone finally got aggressive, but that's a telltale sign. Given the fact that he's been underneath tower all game, if he's dashing in, it's probably because someone's nearby. I don't think he just randomly got that boost of confidence out of nowhere.
Yeah, sometimes you're not sitting in there. Oh, you know what? Maybe we should have asked him yesterday while they were in here. Is just how often are you getting bullied under tower and then you just get the surge of confidence? Well, I can just solo that dude. Yeah, no, definitely, like you said, the most telegraphed you could probably be. Has to get something going for his team, though. Wards up pretty deep for the Ferrymen on the left-hand side. Just now, Hurry drops one to maybe match. Trelly, even though I was thinking maybe the pace was going to start to pick up, especially, you know, teleport's still gone for 40 seconds on Baskin, maybe some rotation power for Haddix that would not be matched otherwise. Solo laners content to stay over there, farm up, get a couple more levels. And it doesn't seem like the junglers are being incredibly active. Ult back up now for Cyno. I think this is a shield buff play. Still that Fear No Evil on the board, especially now that he's finished a hi-rez, starts to get the conversation flowing in favor of the Ferryman jungler.
Yeah, and there was the grouping towards left, but BaRRaCCuDDa, very difficult to dang. That CC immunity on that ultimate, you can get so far away. And it looks like that's going to be enough. That mounted archery. It's a good get out of jail free card, especially if you're posted up. But the Styx Ferrymen, they were grouping towards the Gold Fury. CycloneSpin head over. But Hurriwind immediately spots it out. This Yemoja can stall a Gold Fury pull for such a long time. Ur's Rebuke, such a potent tool, just splitting up a team fight. And because of that, not going to see the pull just yet. I think the reason the Ravens haven't made an aggressive play towards gold, despite the fact that BaRRa has been able to step up in lane pretty effectively, and the teleport play, was because Paul, now it looks like they are going to go for the call. Someone does have to get to the Hunbat. Someone's got to get to the Hebo. They've got blinks.
Oh, there's going to be the walls up.
late.
Ravens secure that one. Snipes are coming in, though. They will trade Hurry's life. But it's a Gold Fury picked up. Paul goes forward. Does not connect on the ultimate. The damage. And the turnaround is going to be there. Haddix chases him down and gets the kill onto Paul. You go 1 for 1, but it's support for mid and the Fury to boot. The Ravens pulling themselves even further ahead.
That's a rare miscommunication there from Paul. He must have thought the team was coming in. They were not. And now Ven might be in a little bit of trouble. Does have to beat. How much damage do they have?
Not enough! Not enough! No, they even turn it around! Trelly, he walks away! Scream gets to jump in with the help of Haddix. They find 2 more kills, and they let Vin walk out of there.
I'm amazed that Ven ends up living that. It was a beautifully timed beats, but it just didn't seem like they had enough damage, and good peel comes through. Haddix gets 2 kills, and the Pyromancer immediately pulled once again. The Highland Ravens, they're not hitting the brakes anytime soon. Immediately to another objective. All from, again, that ult from Paul. Extremely questionable.
Yeah.
He goes in way too deep. Ven's got plenty of return damage. The team does not follow up. And then, even though Paul's dead, they do decide to go, and they get very close to killing Ven, but very close doesn't count. You get no gold for getting very close.
Nope.
And the Highland Ravens pull themselves even further ahead. Both objectives down, and Hurriwind gets a runic bomb in pocket.
Man, that went from like 1-1, we're kind of casually looking at the game, maybe we're going to see some action in like 5 minutes, to exploding 6 kills on the board, 2 objectives in the blink of an eye for the Ravens. Blasted open, 13 minutes in. Trelly, it went from a couple hundred gold separating them to a small rise, about 1,000 gold to the Ravens, to now almost 4,000. All in their favor. Not to mention experience leads, which are everywhere. Haddix, that 2-0-2, that rotation, it goes massive for him, on par with Baskin. A majority of the game now up a little bit. Scream caught out in the jungle, leap over the wall to get some disengage. Drops the ult, Fear No Evil used, but does not lock him down. Beads used on the other side. Hurry drops the walls, forces some retreat, gets a little damage onto Paul. That's going to be the engage from Scream, forces the ult from the Hebo. That's a good retreat. The Ferrymen, even though they were the ones looking for the fight, force to turn tail and run.
Yeah, but here comes Haddix, and it looks like the tier 1 tower is going to drop down. So many ultimates used to not kill Scream. Aror thinks he's aggressing, but it looks like the wraparound play is here. How much damage do they have?
Haddix, good knock up onto CycloneSpin, forces the Rom to roll out of here. Aror seems to be the target for Scream, and that's going to be an easy kill. Detonate damage from Venenu. Now Scream stunned out Baskin. Matches the rotation. And is able to make this 1 for 1. Good pickups. Damage onto Paul from Haddix seems to be massive. They're not able to find the kill just yet. BaRRa even drops the ult. They're going to have to back off. Paul stays alive. Good couple of kills there for the Ferrymen.
I'm just going to say, because we've seen this Hebo mid many, many times, and we've seen the blink start many, many times, but never, not once, have I seen it play out. I haven't seen this Hebo get a kill with the blink. It's always, you'd think the beads is just more valuable. They're using Crushing Wave defensively, and the blink just never ends up panning out for a kill. It looks like Cyno is going to blink in for a red buff. Did he even grab the buff? It looks like he was able to grab the buff and the beads. Ben, I don't think he was afraid for his life. I think he really wanted the beads. That's the red buff. That's the reason he beads it. Unfortunately, it doesn't play out. So Cyno's going to lose Blink, Fear No Evil, but now you got a target on your back if you're Venenu. This Zeus. I'm thinking you need to time your blinks. Paul and Cyno will have them up in 2 minutes, or Paul's is up now. And this Zeus definitely needs to die. I would say that's step 1. With beads down for such a long time, could be a target.
Yeah, Blink double ult could be massive. Speaking of ult, oh my god, that's the second time this game Scream shows up in right, and he takes Baskin out before he can get to the skies. Fury pulled in retaliation by the Ferryman on the other side of the board. Hurry spots it out. BaRRa steps forward. Fury itself sitting about 1/3 HP, dropping low. Looks like the Ferrymen are going to be able to get this one. Good secure from Paul.
River's Rebuke thrown out, but it's not going to stop the disengage. Ferrymen get to walk away. Trelly, they're chipping away at the lead. But it feels like every step forward for them is at least one, maybe two steps forward for the Ravens. They're grouping up already. Around the right-hand side, Pyromancer's not going to be up for a little bit. And no way, they're going to start up the Fire Giant.
And they don't have to worry about the ultimate from Paul. That's going to be a good confirmation. It's just Baskin stepping forward, and Haddix is on zone duty. But how much can Baskin do in the backline while the team tries to show up? That's the question. CycloneSpin's over and left. You're not going to have an ADC.
There's going to be the Zeus ult damage. Chipping away at the FG Ravens. Secure that one 16 minutes in. Hurry's getting low. Has to retreat here. Haddix is just chasing him down, man. He goes into the ult and finds the kill, no problem. And he's not even done. He's staying back here in a 1v3. No assistance from the team, and he's winning this fight. Cyno forced to retreat. Baskin gets a little bit of a heal. Finally, some backup from the Ravens. Well, maybe a little bit too late. Gets the kill onto Paul. TKOs a few others. Haddix. He's going to make you think this Vamana still deserves to be first pick, first ban, and this is exactly why.
Yep, I mean, Paul unfortunately didn't have the ultimate. Remember, he just used it to confirm that Fury, and because of that, Haddix said, hey, if I hit my slow and you don't have Atlas of the Yellow River, I'm going to be able to stomp you down with Colossal Fury effortlessly, and that's exactly what happens. Another pick onto this Hebo, falling further and further behind, but CycloneSpin was able to grab a tier 2 over on left. He does have a level lead over BaRRaCCuDDa as well. So I guess you're trying to play through Rama, but Scream, unfortunately, still does have the level lead. He's able to go into the Berserker Shield, so isn't going to care too much about the physical damage dealers for the time being. Not to mention how much Haddix is doing. I think the Ravens should be able to grab at least 2 tier 2s here with this Fire Giant push. I would argue for free. I don't think the Ferrymen should even be stepping up to try and defend if the Highland Ravens are grouped as 5. If they're doing a 3-2, then they can definitely defend in mid.
It's one of the few times where the solo laner damage, specifically for Haddix, doesn't feel like it's been fluffed up just because they're in solo lane, right? Like, this is genuine 12,000 damage. He's been putting it into kills, putting it into assists. And now the team's trying to put this Fire Giant to work. Scream stops the back on
beautiful.
2. That's going to be massive. It's a 4-on-3. CycloneSpin's just gone. Haddix keeps doing it to the carries. Can't do anything to stop him. And the left side, Phoenix gets burned down. They'll lose the tier 1 on right, but a worthy trade. Still tier 2's up in the other 2 lanes, though, Trelly. Ravens got to pump the brakes, pull back, reset.
Yep, Scream's being as annoying as possible, making sure his team is able to grab just about everything they would want. Mid tier 2 being looked at. Fen still has Lightning Storm and River's Rebuke for Hurriwind. But it looks like they don't want to fight. They're going to back up and spend some of that gold. Yeah, this Vamana is a menace. I was talking about the Zeus because that's the only one that I think that can die, right? I mean, Ven can die. He's a Zeus. This Vamana cannot die. There's just not enough damage in the world to try and shred through what Haddix has been able to do in the backline. It's been a lot of stomping, but also a lot of disruption, the knockups. So much poke damage. Haddix can do no wrong. 4-0-3, a part of just about every kill, except for 1 here for the Highland Ravens. He's up against 4. He doesn't have ultimate, but I don't think he's too scared.
Dashes backwards. So like you said, maybe not scared, cautious is how I would describe this. He recognizes, you know what, 1v3, I can take those. 1v4 might be pushing it even for him. 4-0-3, especially around the Fury respawn. Not giving anything up. Fire Giant wears off, going to be back in about a minute. So the power play done. It's a Phoenix, a tier 2. Like you said, a lot of gold spent. Power spikes met. Soon to be a Primal Fury on top of all that. Fire Giant will be back right before the Pyromancer. But the Ferryman, Trelly, we got to figure out a way back into this. 7,000. Let's go ahead and call it 8,000 gold now with the Fury. They're trying to chip away at it. They've got the left side Phoenix exposed. They're grouping up on right, potentially looking for a tier 2. Finding a fight, finding those pushes, that's a huge deal.
Yep, I mean, it's unfortunate because the 6 Ferrymen, they've got 3 blinks, and you only get value out of those relics if you're engaging, right? If Baskin's blinking in, Cyno's blinking in, Paul's blinking in. But they don't seem to be in a position where they're blinking in, more so they're blinking out, and because of that, they just don't have the survivability. They don't have very good engage, and it seems like next couple Fire Giants, they're going to have to give up for absolute free. 6 Ferrymen are grouped on the opposite side of the map, trying to find any sort of free farm they can. Doesn't seem like they're going to be able to find too much. Because Scream is still sticking around, making sure that the wave is cleared, all these minions are pushed up, no towers can be looked at. There's still a right tier 2. the Highland Ravens have to go through before they're trying to fully break the base of the Styx Ferrymen. But yeah, they weren't able to grab too much. I mean, they tried to invade some buffs, but there wasn't enough farm available. The Highland Ravens have been on top of grabbing their own jungle farm. But the one thing they did do is make sure the fire wave over on left is not going to be a problem. Haddix has to go deal with that wave. Maybe he'll TP in, or maybe he'll just push it the whole way up. Either way, the Highland Ravens should play this slow and just sit here for a bit.
A lot of wiggle room for the solo laner on the Ravens. A lot of time to work with. 2.5 minutes on the power play. Scream setting up in mid. Left side Phoenix still down. There's the teleport in from Haddix. It's going to be a 2-3 split. With Haddix joining Scream in mid. Gets a little aggressive. Runic Bomb's on Scream right now. So look for the detonate on the mid Phoenix. A little bit of poke on the right side. Courtesy of BaRRaCCuDDa. Trelly, they're playing it slow. This is where it gets a little awkward. The defense, you had mentioned the blinks. Got to be careful if you step too far forward for the Ferrymen, or sorry, for the Ravens, because of the Ferrymen's potential retaliation.
Yep, and that's why Scream and Haddix are playing it slow. Looks like they are waiting for that fire minion wave. They could just blink in, they could just use ultimates, but they are chilling until that left side bird respawns and becomes a threat. BaRRaCCuDDa gets knocked up, but Hurriwind's got the regen, and Fire Giant's also going to make sure their health bars are topped off. But once the waves meet on left, that's going to be the go button. I'm wondering if it's Scream and Haddix or if it's going to be the right side. It looks like Scream's going to be left on his own. So I'm thinking Haddix is going to blink in right when that Phoenix starts to die.
Well, so far, nobody's done anything. Cyno teleports in on Scream. Fire minions moving into the left side. Phoenix should be a guaranteed pickup. That's going to be the aggression on the right side. Phoenix immediately, there's a fear no evil to try and rip it apart, but it only gets a little bit of separation. Instead, the damage is still there. Vin finally dies, but he goes out with a double. He finds 3 with a help from Haddix. Now in a 2v5, CycloneSpin and Baskin try to defend the Titan, but Trelly, there's just too much damage. The Ravens, they play this one clean. They're moving forward, playing with their food a little bit. Get the deicide, get the win.
BaRRaCCuDDa just needed 2 more kills before they were able to do so. I'm thinking this one was over from the picks and bans. It did seem like there was a plenty of things that the Ferrymen could do to try and stop that aggression, but there was no answer for Haddix. I think that may have been the main issue. I guess saying it's over from picks and bans implies that they had no answers, but there's a lot of questions about this Vamana, and none were answered. And of course, Ven still did crazy damage, BaRRa still did crazy damage, but the Colossal Fury was an issue.
When they finally get to the Zeus, he gets a double kill on top of that, right? Yep. And good news, I guess, Chad at the very beginning had voted in favor of the Ravens. They were feeling it. Haddix proves you right, I think, more than anything there, right? BaRRa doesn't play bad, but he doesn't have the flashy plays. Yep. You get a lot of good damage coming down from Vin, a lot of good moments, I think, from Scream. But nothing's going to beat the Vamana literally just running into your backline, beating everybody like it's nothing. Yep. And just strictly, I think, ignoring the fact that there were people dealing damage to him. I don't think he cared at any point.
I didn't see him get dealt damage to. When he soloed Paul, he was actually healthier than he looked like at the start of the fight. So it just didn't seem like there was many answers. I think maybe take that one away in game number 2.
Yeah, got to figure some things out, picks and bans, and then add it on to play on field. Yeah. We'll see what the Ferrymen do right after this break.
chance. I'm the romance. Let it go. Let it go. You don't stand a chance. I'm the real romance. Let's dance. To the side, come on, step away. You can call me out. When you're gone, it's me, no one else but me. Get the hint, you're out. To the side, come on, step away. You can call me out. No one else but me. You can call me out. To the side, come on, no one else but me. Get the hint.
Welcome back, SMITE fans. Game number 1 of our first set between the Ravens and the Styx Ferrymen goes over to the Highland Ravens, able to run through the Styx Ferrymen and find themselves a pretty dominant game number 1 win. And if you're a big fan of the Highland Ravens, and Ravens fans are now probably pretty happy about the chances of a first seed, you should go and support the Ravens or any of your favorite SPL teams, brought to us by our good friends at Skulls. You can go to shop.hi-rezstudios.com/SPL and pick up our jerseys, brought to us once more by our friends over at Skulls, returning for us in Season 10 of the SMITE Pro League. Make sure to pick up any of the jerseys, hoodies, or t-shirts available for all of the individual teams that are now here in Season 10 of the SMITE Pro League. Thank you one more time, Skulls, for joining us yet again for the SPL. And Mifflin, game number 1, man, when you give that many top picks over to a team like the Highland Ravens, I mean, the Yemoja, the Vamana, just as meta, at least in that regard, the Bakasura even, but you throw such crucial picks over for players like Venenu. This just felt like maybe from the picks and bans was a tough one for the Ferrymen to fight back into.
Yeah, so many of those late-game team fights for the Ferrymen were, okay, we got to get on top of Zeus. Oh, God, how do I get past Haddix? All right, we're past Haddix. Oh, God, I'm in Bakasura's vomit. All right, well, we're finally approaching the Zeus. Oh, God, there's lightning raining onto me. Just a very difficult situation to find themselves in, a composition that was very good at funneling damage in towards this Zeus, and very difficult, I think, for the Ferrymen to find their dive. I think you're right, though. It really has to be that they just gave over too many priority selections. I think saying, sure, Zeus, a very strong pick right now for Ven. I think within that conversation, of course, but it's the rest of the draft built around this Zeus that made it so difficult.
I think maybe priority number 1 for the next wave of bans is maybe don't give Vamana and Yemoja over, especially with how well Haddix performed out this game, with Hurriwind's track record on this god as well. If there's any 2 picks I probably don't want to give over to the Ravens again, it might be those 2. So maybe some adaptations in the bans, maybe the Styx Ferrymen taking one of those away as a first pick selection for themselves to kind of shake things up, because something's gotta swap. We don't have sub 25-minute games very often, Mifflin. I mean, at one point I look and say, okay, it's 18 minutes. Ravens are kind of winning. Probably got about another 10 or so minutes. I look up and it's game over at that point.
Yeah, and Paul has a very tough time this game as well, doesn't he, J-Mac? It just felt like if it wasn't Vamana, it was Baka, and if it wasn't Baka, it was Yemoja, and if it wasn't Yemoja, it was nobody. But it was usually one of those 3, so a solid situation I think the Highland Ravens find themselves in. If I'm on the Ferrymen, adaptation probably does start with that Vamana.
Well, there is one silver lining for the Ferrymen, since they knocked down the KDA of Venenu just a little bit on the Zeus. No longer 20. It's now 12.5.
Wow, that's more than a little.
That's more than a little.
They halved it.
That happens when you add an extra death into the column, and once you start stacking some more games there. But we'll see if the Ferrymen can now bounce back for picks and bans. Game number 2 up against the Highland Ravens. We'll see at least if the Ferrymen can maybe take some of the selections away, get some more kind of top selection picks for themselves to try and keep these away from the Highland Ravens. Look, after watching Hurriwind's performance finding the 4-man Yemoja ultimate just a few weeks ago, after seeing a game like that, I would have never expected him to probably ever get his hands on that god again. Maybe after a pretty convincing game number 1 for the Highland Ravens, we see that adaptation for the Ferrymen, whether it be a Yemoja pick for themselves or maybe even a ban. But to start it out, a couple of the healer mage support bans now taken away, Aphrodite and Hell, both off of the table. If history's any indication, I imagine we'll probably see a Nox thrown in there with just how potent she has been in that support role, as well as Cirquet, who still remains as one of the top junglers in the game.
Yeah, I'm convinced that Circuit's just the best god in SMITE right now. I'm so convinced. I got owned in a playtest recently by Lermy Wormy. That god does a lot of damage.
Yeah, I was a tank and I felt the pain.
Yeah, so Surcat, I think, in a very good position right now, and the Styx Ferrymen would not want to deal with a god that is so good at finding picks on map and so mobile and strong in solo agent situations. Very good in most jungle 1v1s. I struggle to figure out a pick that wins that 1v1, especially when she's able to stack up crit as quickly as she does. And so, the Ferryman will take it away. Vamana still available as it stands. Yemoja still available as well. Guan Yu was banned last time around. So if healing is the answer, with Horus already taken off the table, feels like Guan Yu would go a long way here, and he does. The Styx Ferryman will be piloting that one, likely over in that solo lane. Haven't seen a whole lot of flex potential from Guan Yu this year, but in the past, would be worth mentioning it. As of now, I think Baskin telegraphing his pick in first slot.
Gotta imagine Yemoja snap block here for the Highland Ravens. Just get that one for Hurriwind again. He's 5-0 on the pick so far for the games that he's been able to get it. Don't imagine you want to, if that does make it through the top two, I don't see a world where the Styx Ferrymen don't maybe try and grab that for themselves.
It's gotta be Yemoja here.
It has to be Yemoja. I also wouldn't be surprised if we just see another Hachiman pick. I mean, BaRRaCCuDDa had a pretty decent game on it, 2-0-5 on the selection. Just such a this might be one of the hardest duel lanes to fight up against now with the extra boxing potency that Hachiman has with that first ability. But won't be either of those at least yet. Hercules instead, first pick for the Ravens.
Yeah, I don't think Hachiman's in a state where, with CERN still available or ROM still available, you feel like you're restricted to Hachiman. I'm not certain that I'm of mind that he's that powerful just yet. We very well could find it out, and I could be spreading misinformation, as is one of my favorite pastimes, but I'm just not so certain that he's that strong right now. I am certain of Yemoja's strengths. I know what she brings, which is a ton of pressure in laning phase, a good amount of healing, space control, and does restrict the amount of relics that you can get, or which relics you're likely to pick up. Phantom Shell feels like it's almost a must up against Yemoja, so there's value there. Hercules has served every team very well this year. An ardent frontliner, a strong space creation tool, and really good initiation from him. When you've got a Yemoja, you really like someone to get the fight started and displace your enemies. Hercules fits that role very well. You know, I argued against Hachiman as a priority pick, and then I remembered that Xbalanque is a favorite of both of the hunters in this set, and all of a sudden, all my knowledge of meta went out the window.
Yeah, so Hachiman Baba Yaga for the Styx Ferrymen. Xbalanque after Hercules Yemoja top two to round out the Ravens' first three selections. Now some bans. Some respect over towards Venenu now from the Styx Ferrymen. Saw how good the Zeus has been doing for Ven. Winning, doing nothing but winning so far. So I'm going to make sure to take that one away. Then a Terra and a Batz from the Highland Ravens. Taking a shot there at Cyno, recognizing what he's able to maybe do on a pick like that. And then a Bakasura final ban. So now taking away some of the problem pieces from game number one. The Vamana, actually everything except for the Yemoja has either been banned or picked up by the Styx Ferrymen. So we'll have to see a full new draft from the Ravens here to round out their bottom two. Still need their mid laner. Still need their jungler. Still a lot of potent picks up and available. Immediately Susano comes to mind if I'm thinking of players like Scream, but it's also Scream. He's played like 15 or more gods so far just this phase alone. Never know what's coming with this guy.
No, and that unpredictability is one of the primary strengths of Scream. Cyno, on the other hand, I think a little bit easier to lock down what he's likely to take into the jungle. If it's not a warrior, and it might be a warrior, but if it isn't, Kleena, one of his favorites, still available right now. Perhaps even the Fenrir. I believe we've seen that once from him so far this year. So a couple of selections that might find value. CC immunity and kit for Baba Yaga, Hachiman, and Guan Yu already might dissuade him from going towards the Fenrir, but as far as direct matchup goes, if you're able to force EI Jutsu out of Hachiman to stop Brutalize, feels like that's pretty valuable on its own. Tebow Hover, concerning. Just so much damage output, such a high ability from burst potential. Excuse me, I had broken that down wrong. Fenrir 4. The Styx Ferrymen will look very good. The Ravens unlikely to take it for themselves. Naja as the lock-in. I don't love Naja, J-Mac.
No.
It might be that it just hasn't been working out too much. It might be that we haven't seen the burst that's going to follow up for the Naja just yet from this Ravens draft. It might just be that Beads feels like it just absolutely decimates this pick, and if you're going to lock in a crit assassin, maybe there's some better options. But Naja has just not been consistent enough for my liking.
Yeah, it hasn't been doing, I won't say it's not been doing a whole lot of winning, but it hasn't been the most potent of picks in the jungle so far. Only 3 players have piloted this one so far. Screammmmm being one of those, did get a win on it the last time that he played. We've also seen success on it with CycloneSpin, and then 1 game with a win for Cyno. The other 2 losses, so currently sitting at that 60% win rate. My bad, I did have the correct number there the first time. But just hasn't really been like that standout assassin that we've seen.
He wouldn't.
Ganesh,
He wouldn't.
going to be going over for Aror, something that Aror really has been going to a lot this season, and actually similar to Hurriwind.
Would he? He wouldn't.
It's 100% win rate when Aror has taken the elephant. No, he would.
He would.
And he will. It's going to be
has.
Osiris for Scream, and that locks in yet another unique pick for him. Now 17 in one phase. 17 God picks in 21 games, Smith.
Good for him.
That's crazy.
It is crazy. What's the win rate? You don't have to tell me that.
Well, Osiris in general, I do not believe has been played at all this phase. So we'll have our first Osiris one this one. Also did get very minor buff, a little bit of extra damage and flail, a little bit of extra base HP and protection to his name.
I don't think, would it be Osiris jungle here? In a world where mannequins is just not very good, feels like the chop junglers aren't good either. Would I prefer to see Guan Yu jungle Osiris solo?
Especially with the Phalanx buff that came through, too. It feels like that would make Osiris crazy.
Maybe. Would it make it crazy? Oh, man. I'm not sure if crazy is the right word. Yeah, this is... He's thrown me for a loop, as Cyno always does. I think if I had the choice, if I'm the coach for the Styx Ferrymen, I probably would put Guan Yu in the jungle. Just feels like his ganks would be a little bit better right now. But... I wish it were an assassin. I'll give you that one for free. Compositionally, the late game team fight of the Styx Ferrymen is very good. They've got Aror on one of his best picks, some scaling picks in the Baba Yaga. We know how tanky she's going to be in the late game. Space creation from Guan Yu and Osiris, regardless of role. Hachiman scales very well right now with all the buffs that he's received, additional attack speed, more power on that first ability. But this Osiris has left me perplexed.
It is jungle, if that helps you out.
It is jungle.
We did get confirmation that this Osiris is jungle for Cyno.
Awesome.
And Baskin on the Guan Yu. Does that maybe change your perception now that you have that confirmation of Osiris jungle for the Ferrymen?
You got to really hope it does well in the early game, right? I mean, even when Osiris was at the top of the meta and it was Osiris or Long Shen every single game, if you didn't do a whole lot in the early, they didn't do a whole lot at all, and that was when they were at the top of the meta. Right now, having not seen them too often, gotta feel like this pick is not as strong as it used to be. Mannequin's not as strong as it used to be. Maybe those bruiser options that made him very viable out of the jungle, not as good either. For those of you who haven't been keeping too much track of itemization changes in year 10, I know it happened a lot, but we had removed bruiser items, so the items that would give you power and defense at the same time now only do one or the other. So things like Berserker Shield don't synergize as well out of the jungle. That's not to say that you can't build it. You're just going to deal a little bit less damage as you start to itemize that way, which means Osiris just can't be as good. He'll either be tankier or he'll deal more damage and be squishier. But you got to think, with how Osiris plays into this composition from the Ravens, you need him to be at least a little bit tanky, because you're walking into a wall of damage from Agni or a wall of damage from Xbalanque, or if you're taken up into the air, yeah, you could immediately be eliminated by this Naja. So as far as a defensive jungler that's going to create space, I think this is like a half tier better than Cyno's Surtur.
We'll have to see if the Styx Ferrymen with this Osiris jungle can pull back through, or the Ravens going to sweep this one away. Let's jump into game number 2 with Gore and Trelly.
Thanks so much, J-Mac and Mifflin. And Trelly, Osiris jungle.
Yeah.
There you go. Whatever you want to say about it.
Well, it's not very strong right now. I would love to tell you more. There is still the chance that Cyno gets going early. As you could jungle Bacchus and get going early and look disgusting. You know, that is just sort of how we are. Snowball is snowball for a reason. But it is a bit scary, just because, you know, there was a big problem last game, game number 1, and that was Haddix on the Vamana. And now he's been downgraded to the Hercules, who is just useless in comparison. That's obvious sarcasm. Hercules is still extremely powerful.
Yeah, fat/S on that one.
Yeah, extremely strong, which tells me that you're going to have to put some pressure over towards solo lane. And in this case, Cyno's not even going the mannequin, of course. He's just going to go for the Eye of the Jungle, which is the better option at this point. But because of that, your early game's not going to be as powerful. Your ganks aren't as easy. You're forced into a beads, which means the blink isn't an option here. I don't have much positive to say about Osiris jungle. And I honestly don't have much positive to say about the Osiris solo. We have the solo laners in to talk to him about the tier list. And Haddix rated Osiris extremely low in solo, like where he's usually played. And then, of course, because of those higher items being nerfed, his jungle just gets a little bit worse as well.
And the Xbalanque pick. Getting a lot of poke out there as well from BaRRa. Played it last week, made it look good. Seems to still be matching up with that one, where the expectations are. I do have a question for you. I don't know if you saw the Twitch predictions that came through. 55 for the Ravens, 45 for the Ferrymen. Do you, I guess, agree with that kind of split? Maybe we have to hold that thought. Good sash, good damage. You need a little more Agni dash forward, and the flame wave for Venenu gets the first blood. Now Paul has to play a little more cautiously. Baba Yaga tried to get a return kill, unable to chase down Scream. Great play from Vin.
Yep, not a good start there for the Osiris jungle. In the moment of the game where he is his strongest, he loses, which is not ideal. Especially when you got the beats, your ganks are not very easy. Even with Lord of the Afterlife, it's hard to land. That's your best option for CC. It seems like Cyno is going to be playing from behind for the majority of this early game, whereas Scream is not going to stop his aggression anytime soon. Heading over to solo lane, going to grab the cooldown buff. There's no way he's going over to duo. BaRRaCCuDDa and Hurriwind have all the pressure in the world. They were able to grab the shield buff and the cooldown buff uncontested. You know, the Hachi Ganesha lane just does not have the pressure. So they're going to be sitting back for the time being. I'm wondering exactly what is the plan here for the Styx Ferrymen as far as where they're trying to fight. It might just be farm, right? Just stay back and just get as much uncontested farm as possible, whereas the Highland Ravens, they're just walking up to everything.
I want to go back to the question I was going to ask you. Again, 55-45 Ravens Ferrymen in the Twitch chat. And part of the question is, do you agree? Another part of the question is, how many of those do you think came through before the Osiris was locked in for the jungle? With that sash missing, this might end up being a slow gank. Scream still has a lot of autos. Oh my god. They almost get the kill. Trelly, I've learned as long as I ask you about this, a fight's going to break out, so I might just keep talking about it.
Wait, what were you saying? One more time. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I do think...
I was going to do it too.
The majority in favor of the Ravens definitely makes sense to me, as it looks like a possible attempt at an invade here. Remember, some low health bars, and Cyno is getting zoned out, but you can't go too far underneath the tower, so the blue buff will be fine. I assume... I know, because I'm in chat when I'm not casting a fair bit, and it seems like a lot of people do vote without even seeing the picks and bans. They just go ahead and vote for their favorite team as is, which shows good, faith in your squad.
Yeah.
But because of that, I would assume, not a lot of teams saw the Osiris, or a lot of voters saw the Osiris, and if they did, I would assume it'd be closer to 60-40. And now that, it got off to a rough start, maybe even more so in favor of the Ravens. But that's just early game. I always say it in my ranked games when I fall behind, it's the least important part of the game.
Yeah. Especially with what we've been seeing over the last 4 weeks, right?
Yeah, around Phoenix defenses and Fire Giant toss-ups. It really is anyone's game despite the gold differential early.
And that gold differential, not massive. 1,000 gold, 4 minutes in. Nothing too crazy. Spread that across 5. It's about 200 gold a player, give or take. The big difference, I think, that we've gotten to see, Trelly, and the one, actually, now that I'm looking at it, net worth-wise, 600 of that 1,000 gold is in mid, which is the first blood bounty, so that makes a lot of sense with the Ravens having that massive lead. It feels as though, like you said, this portion of the game important for maybe getting the snowball rolling. If you can get that momentum, it's getting that momentum that has been the struggle for a lot of these teams. Warriors manage to do it a lot of the time. Sometimes even struggle themselves and have to go a little bit longer. Scream's going to try to get that momentum rolling now. Takes ball up into the sky. Waiting down. A couple of bombs from Agni. Force the home sweet home. Damage still there. They've got the slow. They've got it ready. And an auto from Scream gets the last hit that they need. Lights turned off for Cyno. Cyno still chasing forward, looking for the stun onto Scream. Able to find that, but they're just going to do the damage. And he burns out thanks to Vin. Aggressive from the Osiris, 0-2-0 start, Trelly, and that's not what you wanted to see.
I'm amazed that they even ran. Cyno had not backed. If you were curious, his itemization was the same at level 1. He did not have that Golden Blade, didn't even have Tier 2 Golden Blade. I'm amazed they ran. They gave him a little bit of respect, maybe because they saw Aror coming, but yeah, there's no way that Osiris ever kills. He just doesn't have enough damage. And again, it's because of the starter item. The reason that the Osiris was so powerful back in the day was because of that Mannequin Scepter. You could get some hybrid items online. You could be a threat. Osiris does not have that same capabilities. And he's going to keep falling even further behind. 0-2 start.
Wow, 2 levels.
Yeah, not looking great. At the very least, Paul was able to hold on to his beads, which means he shouldn't be fearing too much from an ult here, but that's going to take a lot of damage. And the ring bounce doesn't quite reach, so he should be just fine. But he just got back to base. I mean, he just got back from base, and he's already this low.
Able to get the green buff. Hurry's here. I was wondering if it was going to be even more aggressive. River's Rebuke up. Cauldron should be coming back soon, though, so maybe causing a little bit of, let's just call it trouble for Paul in the mid lane. Scream on the Cyno. On the Cyno? On the Naja. That shows you who I expect to see playing this god that often. And on the Naja has been just on point and paired up with the damage coming down from Vin. They're the top 4 on the charts, Jelly. You don't typically get to see that.
Yep.
At least this early.
They are swinging in this case. At the very least, Hurriwind's able to do a little bit more than Aror. So everyone beating out their counterparts for damage-wise so far in the early game. But hasn't been able to translate that into any sort of objective play. The Gold Fury not going to be looked at least for a little bit. Cyclone dashes forward, but just to get aggressive, just to try and stop Hurriwind from farming those prophetic cloak stacks. That's all she wrote. But look at the damage onto Paul. Oh my goodness, one more bomb.
Shield.
There it is.
It's good. I was wondering how he's going to find it. Stun should be here from Cyno. No, he gets beads out. Dash not available. Cyno finally pulls one back, and he gets it onto the 3-0. That killing spree shutdown should feel nice, but the sash, no ult follow-up, no mana. Hurry goes down over and left while the fight is happening in mid. BaRRa gets some return damage. The Ferrymen finally getting the ball rolling after a very stagnant first 7 minutes.
Yeah, that's not bad, because of course Paul gets soloed out by Ven. That's a big deal, but that means Ven was 3-0. So Cyno is able to grab the shutdown, and if you remember the deficit in the XP, Cyno jumps up a lot from that shutdown. He's now sitting at level 9. That's a big deal. He was very far behind Scream before that engagement. The Osiris does lose the beads in the process, though, so Scream has an easier time trying to find a target for Windfire Wheels with this Naja, which could bode well if there's follow-up, of course, because it doesn't seem like Scream's going to be able to handle the 1v1 on his own. Windfire Wheels is it does good damage, but it's not enough to kill an Osiris at this point. If Ven's nearby, though, we saw how much the flame wave and those bombs were doing. They'll definitely be able to find a kill on the Cyno. It's just the amount of burst damage that comes through. But that shutdown, still very important, and I would argue Cyno needed to confirm that kill to keep himself in this game.
Yeah, otherwise we were having a conversation about a 3 to 4 level down Osiris that wasn't getting a lot done. Home sweet home used by Paul. There's the Dharmic Pillars. Fire's good. Forces some safety out of the Ravens. Ult used defensively, and the Aegis used by Scream. Haddix getting aggressed on. Baskin doing a lot to shred him down. Push into the tower, though. We've seen this go wrong several times. Up, down for Cyno. And that's going to help them get the kill. Turn one on to Haddix, and what was a 4-0 lead for the Ravens, Trelly, turns into a 4-3. The Ferrymen catching up. You can see, though, the gold still about 2,000, experience 1,600. They're finding the kills. They just need to get the stuff after.
Yep, beautiful damage there on to Ven. He gets silenced out, too. He dashed right into it, but no follow-up damage. Aror does not have the Dharmic Pillars, and Paul already used Home Sweet Home. Not going to find a kill there. You got to watch out for that Baba Yaga. If she gets lucky with her roll on her first ability, you can get silenced, you can get slowed. There could be some proc shred, even being sped up, all of which can be very important. In this case, that silence almost cost Ven his life a second time this game. But J-Mac called it. The Phalanx, the upgraded, the buffs that item received would be very solid here for Cyno. It looks like he is going into it in that second item slot. He's going to help him out because he got the ball rolling, right? He was able to find that shutdown on a Ven, and then he's able to find a nice gank on a Haddix, chaining the CC very well.
Okay.
And that's going to help out. He's going to be doing a little bit more, but it's more so, again, not a hybrid item. He doesn't have that damage online. It's the protections that this item is going to provide, as well as the stacks that do sort of make it a hybrid item, but it's more so saying you don't have that attack speed, you don't have that extra damage. It's just the stats of the item for now.
Now, obviously big image-wise, that's a shield. Small image, does that not look like an angry lizard?
Yeah,
he's just staring at me.
I could definitely see it looking like an angry lizard.
You said phalanx, and I was like, I don't know what kind of phalanx that is, man. Not like one I've ever seen. That's an angry gecko or a chameleon trying to get at me. But like you said, some prots, maybe needed prots online for Cyno. Now you can't take your eyes off it. You've been locked in. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry I've ruined an item for you.
You haven't ruined it. It's a little bit more fun
Enhanced
now.
it. Now it's a little guy that just kind of travels around with the Osiris. He's getting aggressive around the red buff for the Ravens. Pyromancer pulled by the Ferrymen. They're going to pick that one up. No, the Ravens? The Ravens take that one away. That's devastating for the Ferrymen. Hurry pulls up the walls and just gets the team out of there. That is a huge pickup for them. And even better, it's a strip away from the Ferrymen. All of a sudden, Trelly, we were in a 2,000 gold conversation. It's 4,000 11 minutes in, and they might go for a little more. Bombs being dropped by Vin. Tier 1 tower gone. Fury up on the left. Ferryman up into the sky. CycloneSpin. Getting smacked around by the Naja, down to the waiting arms of Haddix, who drops the boulder, gets the kill, and the chase is on Cyno. Over the wall, gets out of there. Aror drops the Dharmic Pillars, gets a lot of damage. Finn actually walks into that one. That gets gifted over for the Ferryman. Baskin trying to chase down a little bit more. Scream stunned out. What can the Guan Yu do? Especially when everyone's getting zoned. He needs a little help, and he's got to find it. Cyno comes in. Scream still low. Cyno looking for the autos. Aegis use Scream just baiting him in one by one, and his team is there to defend him. Finds the kill onto Cyno, finds the kill onto Baskin, and keeps their jungler alive.
That's a shame because Baskin had a sick rotation. He was going to be able to go in, get a big stun, but as you said, Haddix, an immovable wall. That Hercules said, nope, you want to go follow up? You're not going to be able to. I'm going to stand here, dish up Paul. Cyno does not enough damage to confirm much there. I mean, Ven drops. There's a beautiful ult there by Aror. But now the Highland Ravens are heading towards this Gold Fury. They've got the pressure for now. It looks like Scream is going to stay over on right. They're not going to do it right away. We've got plenty of time until a full grouping happens in the Styx Ferrymen, but looks like the pull is going to start now. CycloneSpin didn't use his beads on the last Windfire Wheel, so he has them available. It's only going to be steal attempts, and Aror gets sent into the team.
Yep, pushed back. Fury, half health. Ferrymen are going to respond, though. Ravens dancing around. Again, ult economy is actually coming back up here for the Ravens. Very dangerous game if you're the Ferrymen. Doesn't seem like the Ravens are going to stick to it. They're looking for the pull. CycloneSpin, you had mentioned it, has the beads, uses them here with the dash to get for the disengage. Up in the sky goes Scream. He's going to come crashing down. BaRRa's stunned out for now. Not going to be able to find the immediate damage, but it does not matter. The CC is there. Dharmic Pillar's thrown up. Scream gets killed off. Dash from Vin lays down a trail, but they're losing a lot of their health bars. It is going to be the pullback. 2 down for the Ferrymen. 3 on the Ravens, and the chase is on. Haddix pushes Cyno under the tower. Tries to stay alive. The Hercules doing everything he can. Baskin doing everything he can with a little bit of help from his friends. Gets a double and sets this back up. What was 8-4 is now 10-8. As Hurry's the last man standing on the Ravens.
Yeah, that was just way too much AoE damage. The Ravens grouped up in that shield buff, trying to get a kill on the Cyno, but he was too tanky. And a beautiful ult from Aror once again. CycloneSpin and Paul all got so much value because of the grouping there from the Highland Ravens. The gold still going to be heavily in the Ravens' favor because that Gold Fury didn't go down. But at this point...
Another Angry Lizard.
Yep, another Angry Lizard on the side of Haddix. And he's been extremely tanky, but again, that grouping, just a little bit too much. So the Highland Ravens might want to spread out a bit if they're going to fight all this AoE damage here on the side of the Styx Ferrymen, especially in a small corridor.
Especially around a Dharmic Pillar.
Yeah, you're going to be taking a lot of damage in that regard, and possibly, if you can't take someone else up, because Cyno did not die on landing. There was not enough follow-up. This Osiris, if nothing else, is relatively tanky for this early on. I guess mid-game at this point. So looking towards the Fury once again are both teams, but Haddix just went back over to right lane. He said, hey, I don't have teleport for 18 seconds, and even if I did, it's not upgraded. I'm going to get some split push. I'm going to get some farm in. If they go for gold, let me know.
About 2,000 gold separating the teams here now. Pretty massive chunk taken away from the Ravens in the last 3 minutes. Gold Fury now pulled by the Ferryman, half health almost instantly. River's Rebuke goes up, lights turned off. Ravens take the Fury. It's the second time this game the Ferryman just cannot catch a break. And suddenly, Trelly, that gold lead extends in favor of the Ravens once more. And they don't even have to work too hard for it.
Yeah, the lights were off, and Ven said, hey, I've got some good damage for you. Dropped a bomb, 500 damage or so. That's going to be able to steal away another objective. I was going to say the Styx Ferrymen are going in for the Pyromancer. Can anyone from the Ravens get over
nearby?
in time? Yeah, it doesn't seem like anyone except
gonna be Hurry,
for Hurry.
dude.
He's got some bubbles, and he'll be able to make it in time. Let's see how much damage. And that's enough. The Styx Ferrymen said, no, we're not 50-50. We're done throwing away objectives for free. Let's back up. And objectively, I got to agree with them. Their luck has not been on their side this game.
Wards dropped there. Cyno, blink forward onto Scream, trying to go for the zone. A kill could definitely turn things around. Scream goes for the sash, gets the ring toss, but takes a lot of damage in the process. Goes with Baskin into the sky. And that's a double push from Haddix. Boulder dropped immediately afterward. They need the follow-up damage. You called it before. Dharmic Pillars locks down 3. Haddix is chasing a little bit. Scream joins the fray. Dharmic Pillars gone means Hurry and BaRRa can rejoin the fight. Pyromancer might just be the call here. 2 low health bars on the front lines for the Ferrymen. They're still staying around the engagement. Cyno walks forward. Ravens get the pyro, and now they're chasing a little further. Auror's low. Auror's gone, and it's Haddix who gets the kill. Cyno TKO'd, and the Fire Giant call for the Ravens.
Yeah, Baskin's here, though. He's got full HP, and he's going to be able to step up. Only Haddix try and zone while the rest of the team is just tanking. Baskin, all he can do is try and do some damage and stay alive as this Fire Giant gets burned down. Paul's close by, but Haddix is making sure this Baba Yaga cannot step forward.
And needs a little bit of push. That's going to be the Cauldron used to disengage. Home Sweet's Home popped early. Baskin still hanging around. Fire Giant's getting low. They need the damage. They need to secure. Ravens are able to get it, but Vin's low. They kill off Baskin. Cyno might be able to do something. No, CycloneSpin taken out. Cyno unable to do anything. All 5 still standing for the Ravens, plus the Fire Giant. And 2 kills to boot.
And that was BaRRa shelling Ven. What a beautifully timed Aegis into the shell. Paul certainly should fall down here, and the ult to catch out the Cauldron. The beads in the Aegis is not enough, and Scream able to confirm the kill onto Paul. At the very least, Ven should have died there. I mean, that was a beautiful flank from CycloneSpin, just saying, hey, Fire's probably going to drop, but I need to get a kill. But BaRRaCCuDDa with the clutch shell makes sure the 1 HP Agni lives. And now, even more aggressive, Tier 2 over on right is going to drop. Tier 2 in mid. Probably next on the chopping block once the Ravens are able to go back to base and spend up some of this gold.
And they got a lot of it, if you think about it. I mean, gold in hand, 2,500 for 2, 2,400 just behind for Scream. So a lot of items to buy. Book of Souls is the purchase for Vin. They might find a little bit more, Drelly, before they actually make it back to base. Scream and Haddix fighting right now up against Cyno, at least. Get the shield buff, get to fall back. Like you said, power spikes. Primal Fury's coming up soon. There's 2 Tier 2s on the board. There's a lot for the Ravens to do here. 7,000 gold in the lead, 18 minutes in. And Trelly, they are sitting comfortably in the driver's seat.
Yeah, I just saw Cyno walk up and hit his sickle on the Scream, and he popped his shield of regrowth and ran away, and I was like, he seemed way too fast for just regrowth. Yeah, that's because that's a wing blade proc as well. This Naja is basically just movement speed and setup for his team. And it's been working out. I mean, Scream has been doing a good bit of
11
damage.
assists.
Yeah, he's been doing a good bit of damage and hasn't been confirming these kills. He's been setting up for those kills. Absolutely zooming around the map and just, you know, being a CC bot for Ven and BaRRa. And it's been working out. I guess for Haddix too. He's got 4 kills, so you can't say that he hasn't been confirming some of these kills. Tier 2 over on left drops. The question is, do the Ravens feel confident enough to go in for the Phoenix before grabbing the last tower? Without Scream, probably not the call. One more Tier 2 in mid that should be gone for. And remember, Paul's got no relics for a minute or so. This Baba Yaga is a great target for Scream or Haddix to find some of that CC. Even one Riptide could be enough to start a fight.
And we've seen some nasty Riptides. I asked Hurry afterward. I told him I was waiting for the 4-man ultimate all game last time. And he told me it's never happening again.
Unfortunate.
And yeah, unfortunate. You never know, though. Maybe it's a Phoenix Siege that pulls it together. That was a perfect storm when the Ravens were able to get that one. So far, this set has felt like the perfect storm for them as well. 9,000 gold in the lead. A beautiful, beautiful power play from them to set them even further ahead. Fire Giant buff going to wear off in 5 seconds, so they got a minute to reset, set up. Same way for the Ferrymen. So now the question comes to you, Trelly. Ferryman defense, both around the FG, opportunities for the FG. Granted, we've seen the 50-50s ago, maybe not.
Yep.
And then maybe even further having to pull back, right? There's still 4 towers up for the Ravens, none for the Ferrymen. What's their defense look like here?
I would say their defense is no defense. I don't think they're going to go for the Fire Giant. I think they're going to stay underneath Phoenix, which is fine. They've got good clear. They've got plenty of pressure as Baskin's taken out of the sky. Let's see how much CC and Baskin get onto the horse in time. So far, it looks like he'll be just fine. But the Riptide!
It's a good Riptide. Gets onto the horse. And just like you said, that's enough CC immunity, but stripped away. And that's stripped away in perfect time. 20 seconds till the Fire Giant. Pyromancer's going to be spawning in right here, so that's another little boon for the Ravens. And you are on the money so far. 4 Ferryman members on the left-hand side of the map looking to push maybe this wave.
Aror.
Maybe try to find a tier 2. Aror caught out. Slowed down. Dharmic Pillars use. Scream. How long till the sash? Good Riptide! Oh my god! From Hurry over the wall! Able to set that one up and force the shell as well. They get the kill right before the fire. Now, Trelly, they see the push that's going on. Haddix has the defense, and nobody from the Ferryman is over here on right, so it's going to be a Phoenix for free for the Ravens. I guess it technically costs them the tier 2, but they get to back set up for fire.
They're not backing.
They still have 15 seconds before Aror is back. Lights are off. Cyno's low. Push back. CC. That should be a kill. Now they just have to be careful. Lose the left side. Phoenix. CycloneSpin. Going to be the next one under aggression. Gets on the horse. Tries to get out of there. Scream. Sashes over to Paul. Paul uses the home sweet home. And Baskin is teleported over. Actually, not teleported. He's just walked in. Half health. Ult down. Screen keeping the others engaged on left. So it's Baskin versus the world. Fire Giant pulled. Just Hurry and BaRRa to try and do the damage to it. Might take a little while, but at what cost? It's going to get him a kill for Venenu.
But now Aror.
And now it's wide open. Aror's back.
He's got his
ult. Can he
ult.
do anything?
It's coming up soon. Can he stall?
Rebuke, use, drops the Dharmic Pillars. It's going to start melting. So is Aror's health bar. BaRRa turns the damage over towards there. Ravens get the Fire Giant. And Trelly, it is just trial and error right now for the Ferryman. Unfortunately, every coin toss has come up Ravens.
Yep, I tried to create some hype for the steal, but the Styx Ferrymen, they have negative luck. They didn't put any stat points into their luck, and unfortunately, they're not able to confirm any sort of objective or go for the steal. Aror does what he can, and at the very least, you get a Phoenix over on left. So a win condition has been created. If the Styx Ferrymen are able to win a fight outright underneath their base, they have enough time to try and run it down through left. But I mean, Haddix killing Cyno 1v3, and then Scream goes back just to create some sense of urgency there for the Styx Ferryman. Means that Fire Giant will go down, and now the Ravens just have to push up that lane where the Fire Minions are. Whereas the Styx Ferryman, they've got to push up away with Fire Minions as well, but that's going to be far away. That's going to be on the right side of the map. And remember, Paul's got no beads. He's pretty high up here, but it looks like Scream's not going to be able to find the Windfire wheels, which would have been a decent attempt at a kill because Haddix was nearby. I'm just thinking they were able to push up the wave relatively far, but CycloneSpin actually still sticking around over on right. If the Ravens hurry up, they can go in without the ADC here, but it looks like Cyclone will be able to back in time just because of how far back Venenu is. He's the bulk of this siege because of his CC and how much damage he provides, but of course BaRRaCCuDDa, top of the damage charts and the one who's going to be burning down this Phoenix.
So far, well, only a little bit of damage thrown towards the Phoenix. Ferryman playing defensively. Cyno hanging out in mid, going to clear the wave. 5-on-4, Boulder gets dropped along with the lights.
Easy retreat call.
And the Ravens just start to back up. Force a few ults. Paul's is down. Beads are going to be back up soon, though, for Cyno and Paul. That's maybe the go button. Half health for the Phoenix. A little bit of poke at a time. Bombs drop deep for Venenu. Trelly, it's the slow burn around the Phoenix. Dharmic Pillars get dropped. River's Rebuke in retaliation. Baskin steps pretty far forward. Scream has to walk through the Dharmic Pillars and ult to get the disengage. Phoenix still standing on left. Haddix re-engages alongside Scream. Scream silenced out thanks to Aror. Double push back on the front lines and then a pull back in. Great plays from Haddix. Gets the front line low. That should get the opening. Low health bars though for the Ravens. They step in. Left side Phoenix. Teleport coming through from Baskin. Health bars low on the Ferryman. Another double push. And this time the Boulder gets the job done. 2 kills on the back of that one. Let's call it 3 with the bombs dropping. The Ravens suddenly break this base open. They get the kills. Trelly, they play it a little slow. Paul and Baskin still around. A lot of damage on the board around the Titan. They're going to walk in with the minions. Try to get the job done here. Damage from Vin. He's going to be doing a lot of work. Sash onto Baskin from Scream, keeping things going. Titan half health. The Rom's getting dropped, and they have their eyes on the target. It's a 2-0, and it's 21-8 by the end of it. The Ravens take this set.
And this is what I'm talking about. Game number 1, there was no answers for Vamana, right? It was just too much damage from Haddix. He was soloing in the backline. He goes uncontested. Game number 2, he doesn't get his Vamana, but he gets this Hercules. 2 double pulls in. This Hercules was a menace. Haddix, he gets MVP for this set for me. Of course, Ven does some great damage. BaRRaCCuDDa does some great damage. They get flashy kills, but it was the setup for the team, and that's what that Hercules provides. He was making sure that Paul couldn't do all the damage he wanted to. That first ult that was forced was because Haddix had the pull, and Paul had to immune it with his CC immunity. He didn't want to waste anything else. He's like, if I get pulled back in, I've got no beats. I'm just dead. They wait out that ultimate, they come back in, the siege becomes so much easier.
I gotta give the shout out to Scream though, just for the early portion of that, right? Because
sure.
a lot of the assists that we see stacked up, that the thing that gets the ball rolling is the like 12, 13, 14 assists on the Najah. And then like you said, transferred over. If he gets a sash, all of a sudden they're beating. Hercules pops his knuckles, just sets up. Haddix is in a perfect zone for that one. The Ravens looked impeccable. And of course, Chelly, this is all a fight. I mean, Order has been so close, the Ravens, with this win. It's a huge deal in the standings, but we don't have to break that one down for you here. The desk will be doing plenty of that here.
That's right. Game number 2 and the set now to the Highland Ravens bumps themselves up to a 6-3. Now technically first place in the division with a win up against the Styx Ferrymen. And it really just felt like a run back of game number 1, Mifflin. Maybe not quite the same degree of meta god selections to work out for this team, but equal levels of dominance here for the Highland Ravens.
Yeah, the Ravens got things started very early. Ven, of course, a standout performance. But there came a point in this game, J-Mac, where I felt like the Ferrymen identified that they just weren't going to win a team fight. We're not going to win a fight around gold. We're not going to win a fight around fire. So instead, shift their attention to the split push. And I really liked that adaptation. They break the base, they grab the Phoenix, and I thought to myself, okay, disengage, run to Fire Giant immediately. You probably have time to defend, and then it's a map state advantage, and that would have been, I think, the win condition for the Styx Ferrymen. But it's an overstay in that exact moment where CycloneSpin hovers around the Phoenix for a little bit too long, gets delayed, isn't quite able to make his way back because he can't back. That means one of the frontliners that was with him also had to remain there. Baskin tries to make the hero play of, well, we can't give up Fire Giant. Our team fight's bad. If they start sieging us, it's just not going to work out. He gets caught on a lazy back, and from there, clear and concise from the Highland Ravens. Their siege, perfect. Wait out the power points of the Styx Ferrymen's draft. Wait out some of those massive ultimate abilities, Dharmic Pillar, Home Sweet Home. Oh, those are down now. Immediately break the base and break the game. Clean stuff from the Highland Ravens. I will say, though, I had a bit of fun on the initial death segment at the expense of the Osiris selection. Osiris looked a lot better than I thought it would. Didn't look great. Looked a lot better than I thought it would, though.
Yeah, it didn't start out very good, though. It was an 0-2 start from Cyno, but then a couple of turnaround kills, able to bring himself back a little bit, but didn't get quite enough for the squad. And I think mentioning a couple of those ultimates between the Home Sweet Home, the Dharmic Pillar, especially for Aror, looked really good this game. And in fact,
just real good
carried
at that
quite a few team fights, especially the ones around those Gold Furies. Were really heavily impacted by Aror on this pick, and yeah, he's just so good on this pick. He's also like one of the only ones still playing the Ganesha at this phase right now. In fact, I can even check that one. Yes, he's the only one playing. He's gone 4-1 so far with it, but he still looked good even in the games where it hasn't so much. So
in the game, singular.
Game. Yeah. So the one single game it hasn't looked good for Aror, but overall has been a good selection for him. Unfortunately for the Ferrymen, that likely now pushes them out of first seed potential. Still battle for second, third even as an option for them. Win for the Highland Ravens, huge for them. That puts them now one step closer to maybe being able to take that top spot in the division. And we got a moment, or we're going to have a moment now to talk to BaRRaCCuDDa, the hunter for the Highland Ravens, standing by for our post-game interview.
Yeah, that's right. I got BaRRaCCuDDa here. We were wrapped up talking about fantasy because you're carrying Trelly's team right now.
That's the fantasy we're talking about.
Oh, yeah. that's the one we're talking about on camera, okay? It's an insane set that comes through for the 2-0. I got to ask, though, at least in Game 2, were you as surprised by all the 50-50s that went your way as we were?
I don't think we've ever been more blessed in a set than this one. I don't think we lost an objective, even the ones that they pulled in both games. And when you're just having that good of luck in 50-50s, you can't really lose the game because, like, Unless they're like Hebo ulting like they did game 1 for the gold, I'm like, we just get every objective. Like today's just our day. Just kind of unlucky for them.
Hey, good Friday to come into, right?
Exactly.
All of a sudden you get to come in, nice 2-0.
Yeah.
I think that there's something to be said. We were, like we said, talking about like the fantasy points, how that's kind of wrapping up, and specifically because you and Vin had some insane KDAs, and Trelly's going to look really good because of that.
True.
But the assists, like, you know, you get Scream over there on the Naja, Haddix on the Vamana end to it. How much of what your KDA looked like do you contribute to yourself, and how much do you contribute to those guys?
I think SMITE is basically a frontliner's game. If your frontline is doing a good job, which mine's doing an extremely good job right now, it just makes me and Vin's job so easy to pop off in team fights. And our comms have gotten a lot better for what me and Vin's jobs are in team fights. And I'm no longer inting in team fights, which is pretty good for my team because I'm not following up off of things I shouldn't be following up off of, and I'm playing a bit more, you know, selfish and intelligent, you would say. So
intelligent, yeah.
Not always intelligent, but you know, sometimes.
Yeah. You're making the plays.
Yeah.
It is a huge deal, though, right? We're looking towards it. Like your division going into this week is ridiculously close,
Very
considering it was what 5-3, 5-3, 4-4, 4-4. So getting this win is a huge deal for you guys. What is getting first and getting that trip to directly Masters mean for you? Is that like the most important thing for you after this week?
It doesn't really mean anything, honestly. Not to shoot your question down or
No, that's
anything.
fine. That's, you know, I just worked really hard on it.
Yeah, I'm just sorry. I'm just the kind of guy who just like shows up and likes to play SMITE.
Yeah.
So if we're winning, cool. If we're losing, that's too bad.
You're still playing SMITE.
Exactly, yeah. As long as we're having a good time, or most of the time we're just winning, so yeah, feels good.
Well, hey, it's been fantastic. I know a lot of your teammates have said you hadn't found like your true identity yet.
I
feel
still
like
think we
every
have.
week you're still powering up, which is kind of frightening for everybody else in the
Yeah, it just kind of depends on one guy in particular, whether he wants to do something in the drafts. I'm not going to say the name, but just one guy in particular.
It's a really weird
it's
way
not
to
me.
talk about yourself this way.
Yeah, it's not me.
It's not you.
I've got 3 characters in place. You know.
And you know what? All 3 of them are doing great. Plus, Hachi just got a buff. You got to feel really good about that.
Yeah, I felt really bad for Spinner game 1 at that left Phoenix, where he just took 3 Hachi shots for like 1,200 and just dissipated.
Well, the good news is it's a 2-0 victory. You guys get to, I guess, relax for the rest of your Friday. You came in, got the job done, and of course, close it out here as well. That's going to do it for you. Congratulations on the win. We'll send it back to the desk.
Love you.
That's right, a big win now for the Highland Ravens. Puts them potentially now 1 set away from taking that first seed spot, but they still got a difficult matchup to go later on in the week. They got to play the Camelot Kings, I believe, on Sunday to start things out there. But we can take a look at the standings to see how this now shakes things out for the Order side division, because with a win by the Ravens, they're now maybe hopefully banking on the Kings to get a loss in their future matchups, which is not one that you always want to try and hope for, is that a team like the Camelot Kings, as the season ramps up, to get a loss there. I believe they play against the Eldritch Hounds a little bit later on for the Kings' first matchup there, and then up against the Ravens later. Styx Ferrymen, with that loss, solidly now out of contention for first, but still some possibilities to maybe jump around the standings based off how things continue to shake out for the rest. We still got another set today to go through, though, Mifflin. We got the Oni Warriors and the Gilded Gladiators. Oni Warriors still trying to maintain their hot streak, starting the season 8-0 for their set. Started their preseason at the kickoff with a 3-0 set win overall. Now puts them at 11 in a row, 1 game away from tying the record with, I believe, the Camelot Kings and maybe one other team for most SPL set wins in a row. And if they can win out today and tomorrow morning, then they jump themselves all the way up into now being the record holders at 13-0. And I got to imagine, once Masters starts coming around, those guys are probably going to want to keep extending that one.
I agree. The Oni Warriors are a clear favorite in the entirety of the league right now. But with this upcoming set, J-Mac, I feel like there might be some intrigue building. Is it significant odds for the Oni Warriors? Absolutely. If you were betting money on it, you should go Warriors. I'm going to go ahead and tell you right now, that's the safe bet. The Gilded Gladiators have been cooking up something in the last couple of weeks. That 2-0 up against the Jade Dragons, right, starts to build some momentum. Maybe they show us something here today.
Got to see what we can get from both of these two squads. So that's it for set number 1. The Oni Warriors still undefeated. Can they keep it going? Or the Gilded Gladiators going to stop them out? That's coming up in our second set right after this break.